hosted by now two guys who've never been on the turf. My name's Rohan and Kamil.
I'm Kamil and Danny.
And today it's just us two, Kamil joining us. I don't even know if you can call the guest host at this point.
I don't know, man.
But Arjun is...
They got me on call.
Yeah. Arjun is frolicking in Europe. Shree's in the motherland in India. With his family. Yeah, so it's just us two. We're still watching football. Still in the States. So today we're just going to be going over some big takeaways from last week, Week 16, a pretty big week. We'll talk about the MVP race again. I think there was a pretty big shakeup that I'm happy to see, that I've been waiting for. And then we'll go ahead and talk about a few important Week 17 games. So we'll start off with Week 16. One of the first games of the week was that Bills-Chargers game. It was a lot closer than we expected it to be. But Kamil,
you had some
Bills take another win. How do you feel?
Listen, man, when it's December, once you enter that 12th month of the calendar year, all that really matters is getting the win. All right, teams are playing hard. You know, they figured out who they want to be, and you're fighting for the playoffs. You're fighting for your lives on the road. You get the win. I'm happy. I don't care what it looks like. You look more central into the nation. Look what the Chiefs did this Sunday, losing to the Raiders. You know, a team at home. And typically, it's not the type of thing that you lose to if you're the Chiefs. So, I'm of the opinion, I'm not taking anything away big from this game from the Bills. I'm not going to say, we're no longer a contender or we can't go on a run just because of this game. I think at the end of the day, it was a good win. On the road, you figured out a way to do it. Defense played well. They stood on their heads. I like it. I'll take the win.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously wasn't the prettiest win. It was a lot closer than it really should have been. But like I said, good teams like this, they win those games. I mean, it is kind of concerning. I mean, the turnovers were concerning for me. They leaned a lot on James Cook last week, and then for some reason coming into this week, he gets like two carries in the first quarter. I think less than 10 carries in this first half overall. And you're looking at someone who just put up a really incredible game, and then for some reason, I don't know if you have the answer to this, Camille, but they move away from it. And we saw that a lot with this old Bills offense. And I don't know. I just hope they don't regress and keep putting the ball in Josh Allen's hands, or not putting the ball in Josh Allen's hands, but making him do more than he needs to do when he has, I think, weapons around him, the running game that can help him as well.
Yeah, I would have liked some more of the running game as well. I think what it came down to, you just had a Chargers defense that's playing hard. Staley just got fired. They're coming out swinging. They jumped out to an early lead, and that called for more of a passing game script, which, to their credit, they were able to execute. Got a big touchdown, got another one to end the half, and 24 points on the road. You take that at the end of the day. I think Joe Brady will continue to be focused on the run and put an emphasis on controlling time of possession, making sure that we don't have any short drives that force the defense to constantly play on their heels. And I'm not too worried long-term about this game. I'll just say it again, I'm happy to get the win.
Yeah, I think that's really all that matters. But you mentioned that other team. We'll sort of bounce around here. The Chiefs-Raiders game.
Yeah.
That was not good.
That was good. I disagree. That was good.
Okay. It was good if you're a fan of any other AFC team. Not good if you're a Chiefs fan. Just what happened? I mean, for the longest time, I thought that this Chiefs team, they were a bit inconsistent. I thought when it came to crunch time, when it came to games that mattered, Mahomes would be Mahomes and it would work out for them. But I think it's becoming clear now that the offense doesn't have the talent to really make waves in the AFC. I still wouldn't be surprised if this team went on a run again. It's still Patrick Mahomes, but the lack of offensive talent is very, very real, and it's a very real issue here. I mean, what really swung the game for them? Their defense played outstanding, I thought, but it was the fact that they had two turnovers that turned into two immediate touchdowns. And you're not going to win games like that. Mahomes is probably having the worst season of his career. Do you think this team is still a legitimate contender? Are they still going to, even win a game at this point in the playoffs?
Yeah, listen, I'm never going to count out Patrick Mahomes with an excellent defense as not being a contender. I think what the worry is here, as far as consistency and actually being able to put it together, is that the offense just isn't there. I mean, if you look at the way the Raiders played the Chiefs, They were just rushing five and putting one on every receiver with a single high safety, and it was working. They're constantly getting to Mahomes, getting pressure on him, and nobody would be open. At times, they'd just straight up leave like Marquez Valdez-Scantling uncovered, just daring you to hit him, and it wouldn't matter because these weapons are terrible. I think Mahomes, I saw a stat, he's besides Josh Allen, he's benefited the least from things outside of his control, and that comes down to receivers, play calling, scheme. I don't know what Matt Nagy is doing. That guy is just like makes you miss Eric Bieniemy. If you're a Chiefs fan, all that talk about how Reed is the system and Bieniemy doesn't matter. Look what he's doing in Washington, putting together a nice, competent offense. Look what the Chiefs are doing with supposedly the best quarterback in the league. So I just think it's a greater schematic issue and also personnel. I don't know how you overcome those things this late in the season.
No, and I think the point about Eric Bieniemy is a really good one because I mean, this Chiefs team didn't lose much over the offseason. I mean, they won a championship without Tyreek. Their main loss in terms of weapons over the offseason was Juju Smith-Schuster, who hasn't been doing much in New England, and they replaced him with arguably a better player in Rashee Rice, who's really coming into his own at this point.
Oh yeah,
as I know, fantasy wise. But it's still not working for them, and I really think it might come down to that coaching switch. But on the other end of the football, the Las Vegas Raiders, they still have a very slight chance of making the playoffs. It's probably not going to happen at this point, but this late push is really impressive, and it brings to question something that happened a few years ago when they fired or John Gruden resigned the interim head coach. I'm forgetting do you remember what his name was?
I forget. He's lost to history.
Lost in history, but he shouldn't have been because he really should have been the next head coach of the Raiders, considering how well he led them.
Screw that over. Josh McDaniels, Jesus.
And instead you got Josh McDaniels, and now Antonio Pierce, interim head coach, led them to a 4-3 record. Does he have enough to, do you think, secure that starting role or that head coach job, or does it go to someone else? Do you think?
I think it would be a very grave mistake if they did not give it to him because, there's. Stop and talk with me here, Rohan, for a bit. I feel like when you look at the older NFL, there's certain teams that play a certain way. You know what I mean? And they have that identity, and it's just what they are. And the Raiders always had that identity of like being this like rough and tumble, like tough team that like always plays hard. They have a great defense, and they're just like that like dangerous team. And I feel like analytics and all this stats bullshit has like taken that away. It's taken away the joy of the game. Every team is just trying to be like as efficient as possible. You don't have those identities anymore. But Antonio Pierce has returned the Raiders to that type of identity. They're playing hard on defense. They're playing mean. They're playing violent. They're playing tough. They bought into the system. They want to go out there and win games. He's doing this shit with AOC as his quarterback, bro. Like, this is crazy, like, when you think about it, really. Give this man a quarterback. Let him try and get a good offensive coordinator. And I'm very excited to see how they play. Because you saw, what's his name? Jack Jones. The way he just, taunted Mahomes, looked at him on the way into the end zone, other than just swipe the ball from the fan. That's how the Raiders should be playing, man. Like, that's really their identity.
I honestly agree. I mean, I think, like you said, like, we're getting caught up too much. Like, teams just want to hire, like, good offensive coordinators, like, young offensive minds as their head coach, which works out in some cases. But also sometimes these guys just might be better off as offensive coordinators, and we saw that
Cliff
with Josh
Kingsbury.
McDaniels. Wait, sorry, who else did you say?
How about Cliff Kingsbury?
Oh yeah, don't talk about Cliff Kingsbury.
Doesn't always work out.
I don't want to hear
Arjun loves to yap about get an offensive head coach. It's all that matters. Look at what Cliff did. It's not the end all be all.
Exactly, it usually doesn't work, and that's what I was saying with Mike Tomlin. Like, you want to keep someone like that around, and I think same thing for Antonio Pierce. Obviously, he's not no Mike Tomlin yet, but I think it's that culture that he brings. I mean, this isn't a talented defense either. I mean, by no means is this a defense.
They were terrible earlier.
Yeah, and it's not a defense that should be playing this well. I mean, when you think about it, Max Crosby's probably the really like only star player on defense, but they're playing as a unit. I mean, turning Mahomes over on 2 consecutive drives is an incredible feat, and returning those for touchdowns as well. They're playing with a lot of fire in their gut, as Jonathan Gannon would say. And I think a lot of that can be credited to Antonio Pierce. But moving on to some other important Week 17 games, we'll talk about a game that we were talking about a lot going in, the so-called Fraud Bowl between the Cowboys and Dolphins. I mean, a lot of us thought the Dolphins were finally we're going to be exposed again here against a good team. Dolphins come out on top 22-20, behind a lot of Jason Sanders field goals, and a defense that really played stout, I think,
Mm-hmm.
against a good Cowboys team. Now, first of all, I just want to take my victory. For once, I'm going to take a victory lap. I don't get many victory laps on this show, I feel
Okay,
like.
go for it,
But
Rohan.
but I
Go
told you
crazy.
guys. I told you. I mean, I was telling you that this defense is a top 10 defense with the way that they've been playing statistically and the way you see them play. And they
Mm-hmm.
showed that. I mean, the run game is completely limited. Prescott had a good game, but not one of his better games in terms of the season he's been having. They forced a turnover with that forced fumble, which stopped the Cowboys from getting a touchdown. And I mean, they just played overall good defense. Only getting up 20 points to a very good Cowboys offense is
Mm-hmm.
incredibly impressive. And on the other end of the football, again, a balanced attack. Um, let's see the stats. Tagovailoa had 293 yards and a touchdown. They rushed for over 100 yards between Mostert, A-Chain, and Jeff Wilson. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very, very balanced offense. I don't even know if Tyreek is at 100% at this game. He had quite a good game, but definitely not his best game. Neither
Mm-hmm.
was it Jalen Waddle's best game, who ended up getting an ankle injury from that. So very scary Dolphins team, I think. And they finally beat a good team. They beat the allegations. I think they're ready for these last 2 weeks to secure the division.
Mm-hmm. Um, Listen, man. I still don't know about either of these teams. I tell you the truth. The Dolphins. I don't know if I walks away with any new conclusions about the Dolphins than what I already thought about them. Obviously, being able to win the game, taking it to that last second field goal, it's good. It shows that it showed me something that I haven't seen before. So I'll retract that previous statement that they're able to win a close game in the final minutes and outcoach to win that game on McDaniel's part. To reflect it on the Cowboys, I think this just kind of proves what I was saying earlier about like way weeks ago about the Cowboys and how I view them as frauds because their coaching just isn't there. McCarthy's a clown. Like this guy, like. Can we just admit this at this point? Like,
I think he might be. I think he
he's
officially might be.
no. I'm saying this is a very talented Dallas roster. They're good at pretty much every position that counts. They should be much better than this, and their record is good, but it's just not what it should be. Like especially when you watch them play, and especially against good teams. The Dolphins, I still think they're going to lose to the Ravens next week, and then lose the division to the Bills. Just because I'm a believer, but I don't know. We'll see. I think I still have question marks about both of these teams. Less so about the Cowboys because I think I know what they are, but we'll see about the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think this kind of showed what the Cowboys are. We'll talk about the Ravens in a second. I do agree. I think the Dolphins probably lose their Ravens game next week, but I don't know. Bills game at home in Miami, where they've been playing well. I tend to think they could pull it out. The
It's
Bills
gonna
are
be an energized Bills
obviously.
team.
I don't know. It's just
Josh Allen does own that franchise. Was he like
he
11 and
he
2
has
against
in the
them?
past. He has in the past. But I'm telling you, the way this defense has been playing lately has been really, really lights out.
Mm,
Outside of that Tennessee game, where I'll give them benefit of the doubt because their offense really couldn't get much going.
mm.
But this defense, I think, is very, very legit. So we'll see. We'll see about that
We'll
Bills
see.
game. But I'm sure the division will come down to it. But let's talk about the other team that you mentioned,
Yep.
the Ravens. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite shocked at this outcome. I I said it coming in. I thought
Incredible.
the Niners were going to probably have their way with the Ravens. Obviously, I wanted the Ravens to win. I love Lamar,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think anyone expected that. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone expected that
No. Yeah.
performance. Lamar was good. Lamar was, I wouldn't even say good. He was great in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But the real storyline, I think, here is that Ravens defense.
Yeah.
Um, this is
Incredible.
yeah, this is easily, I think, the best defense in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
Forcing Brock Purdy to 4 interceptions. Not all of them were his fault. Granted, I think some of them were from pressure and tipped balls and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But just an incredible game from
Yeah.
this defense.
Remarkable.
And their offense did what they needed to do. They put up 33 points. They dealt with some adversity with the fraudulent Lamar safety, but they got outside of it.
Maybe he shouldn't go back 20 yards into the end zone.
Okay, see, I hate that argument, but then when he
Why?
does go back 20 yards and then makes it work, everyone's like, "Oh, Lamar's so sick." Like he was going to
I'm
make it
sorry. It's
happen.
just the rules. The refs are a part of the scenery. They're part of the field. But you got to be wary of them. And I feel like backpedaling 20 yards for no particular reason kind of it invites bad scenarios.
it might. But at the end of the day, it would have turned this from a 14-point loss to a 16-point loss instead.
It's
It's not a big
meaningless, yeah.
difference.
It's
Um, but yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on this game? I mean, I was watching
mhm.
this game. The Ravens just look dominant in all facets. Um, I mean, is this really a bad time for the Niners? Do you think they can come back from this, or are they now in a level that's very clearly below the Ravens and what could be our Super Bowl in a few months?
Yeah, I was wishy washy. Picking a team on the other side. I thought I picked the Niners to win, but if I saw the Ravens winning this game, it was going to be, I said, through controlling possession, limiting opportunities for the Niners offense. But they didn't even do that. They just went out and turned the ball over like 5 times or something. That's just like that's a statement. Like in San Francisco as well. That's just I don't know, man. This Ravens team, they just look so dangerous. Defense is playing lights out, and I want to talk about Lamar. Right? I don't think Lamar is the MVP, but Lamar is a better player this year than he was when he won his MVP. Do you know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like just the way he's finally, transformed into an elite pocket passer that's able to use his legs to go out and not just run, not just scramble. He's using it to buy time. He's using it to fire it into the end zone, fire into tight holes. Lamar, like, this is the first time in my life I'm confident, outside of that 2019 year, I'm confident saying Lamar is like a bona fide top 5 quarterback. There's no discussion. Like, you can't even like move him down to like fringe top 10. He's top 5. Like, he has entered that echelon, and that's what makes this terrifying. With the Ravens defense, where he doesn't have to be the MVP and carry the team completely, he can lean on the defense and just go out and execute the offense. And it doesn't look as flashy, as someone like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, but it's just extremely effective football. And yeah, I don't know who could beat them.
No, I agree. I mean, that's a really good point you made. Like before, Lamar used his legs to run, which obviously
Hmm.
worked out well. But now he's using his legs to become an elite, like to really like use the pocket. Like he's
Yeah.
navigating the pocket extremely well. You'll see him step up a lot more, and instead of just taking off immediately, he'll step up, drift, and wait for his receivers to get open and then hit
Hmm.
them. And
Yeah.
it's scary he's doing this without his top weapon,
It's
without Mark
terrifying.
Andrews. It's scary he's
Hmm.
doing this with his top weapon being a rookie wide receiver in Zay Flowers. I
Hmm.
mean, give him an actual number one, or give him even Mark Andrews back, and this team gets even scarier.
Hmm.
Um, I will say there were some things that were um, positive from the Niners. I mean, I don't think Brock Purdy's going to have a 4 interception game
Yeah.
every week. Obviously, I think that's probably going to be an anomaly. So I'm not worried about that. McCaffrey, we'll talk about the MVP race in a second, but I'm still on
Hmm.
the McCaffrey train. He was the only player that was playing well for the Niners um, in that game. I mean, he had 14 carries, 103 yards, and a touchdown, 7.4 yards per carry on the ground, and 6 catches on top of that. I mean, I think this run game is still very very good. They just
Hmm.
couldn't lean on it enough as they would like to because they fell down so early.
Yeah.
But I think the run game is probably still going to be fine. Their secondary is very concerning, though. I mean, Lamar had his way with the secondary.
Yeah.
People were getting open. Likely had a good game in terms. He had 3 catches for 56 yards. Zay Flowers had a fantastic game, 9 catches for 72 yards.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Ravens are good in every single aspect of the game right now. But if this Niners team, I mean, I'd want to run this. We might get this game again, like I said in the Super Bowl. If this Niners team doesn't fall down so quickly, if they can get a score, even a field goal in those first, second drives, um, and Brock Purdy, for example, doesn't throw that pick on the first and second drive. I think he threw it then. I don't know, or earlier in the game. Maybe this game ends up differently, where they can lean on
Hmm.
the run game, and then it gets a lot more interesting.
Hmm.
But still, not to take away from the Ravens, I think they had a fantastic
Yeah.
performance. Um, and and yeah, were there any other games that, or any other takeaways from week 17 or week 16 that stood out to you, Camille, in terms of teams that you thought overperformed, underperformed?
Listen, Rohan, I'm interested in what you think about these Browns. Because I myself, I don't really know what to make of them. I think they have a good defense. Joe Flacco's playing nice, but at the same time, he's like taking it a little too far with the gunslinging, and it hasn't really come back to bite them. Just because they've played like joke offenses in the games that he's won. But do you think this is a team that can like pull it together, make a run, get to a championship game, maybe even make the Super Bowl? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't put them in my top 10 this week, which might have been a
Hmm.
little bit egregious. Adam was on Was
I
on me
think I
about
think they're
that.
top 10. I think they're top 10.
Yeah, okay. I think after last, or I mean, this is happening. We're recording after Thursday, so I've seen the game from yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, After that game, yeah, I think they're top 10. That was a mistake on my end. I don't think they're actual contenders, though. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Flacco really hasn't had to play a good team outside of the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And when he played the Rams, he lost. Um, the issues that concern me. I think Flacco's playing really, really well. I mean, if you see the games, he is like he's dicing defenses up. I will say,
Mm-hmm.
but the turnovers I think are a very real concern. I mean, he's thrown 8 picks now in I think 5 games.
Yeah.
And like you said, those picks are coming against joke offenses. So when you turn the ball over, it's usually going to be okay.
Yeah.
But when you come to the playoffs, if you run into, um, I mean, at this point, it looks like they might run into like the Jags or the Texans or even the
Mm-hmm.
Colts. In which case, if you turn the ball over to them, I'm not super concerned
Mm-hmm.
unless CJ comes back for the Texans. That's another story. Um, but I just can't say that they're real contenders because I feel like if you have those turnovers against good offenses,
Yeah.
it's not going to end well for you. I mean, you saw what the Ravens just did. If you throw 2, 3 interceptions, Lamar's going to make you pay.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing I think with the Bills. Same thing I think with the Dolphins. Same thing even with the Chiefs. I think if you give
Yeah.
good offenses that many chances, good quarterbacks that many chances, they'll make you pay.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, I'm a bit hesitant on them unless Flacco cleans up his play a little bit. But that's not to say he hasn't been, I think, really, really amazing for what cards he's been dealt. I mean, coming in
Mm-hmm.
on a very short notice and doing this is pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, the other slight concern for me, I mean, this is a very good defense, I think, on the Browns end, but their run defense hasn't been particularly elite. Brees Hall had a good game last week. Um, this defense has gone through a lot of injuries, so it's by no fault to them. But I think
Yeah.
the fact that their injury list is really, really adding up could be an issue come playoff time. But as of now, they're a great story. They're still in play for the 1 seed in the AFC, which
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would have
Incredible.
expected at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty much at the same place as you on the Browns in this case. Listen, I love Joe Flacco. I think it's a great story, but like you said, once you start throwing those picks against like the Bills, the Dolphins, the Ravens, come playoff time, the divisional championship, whatever it may be, it's gonna be a bit of a different story, you know. And listen, I wish them well. I hope they do well, but I don't know. I personally don't see it.
Yeah, no, the city of Cleveland deserves this. And I think they might get a playoff win out
But
of it, but I don't think they'll get much more than that. But one other team I wanted to talk about um, is the Buccaneers. They came
mhm.
out at home against their Florida rivals, the Jaguars, absolutely demolished them. It was 30-12. Baker Mayfield had a great game. I think he cemented himself or he's at least cemented himself a long-term contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving
Mhm.
forward. Mike Evans is still elite. Mike Evans having an absolutely fantastic season this year. He had
My
another two
dog,
touchdowns. I love to see it. I mean, people are writing him off. People are
love
saying he
that
wasn't
guy.
Hall of Fame.
Oh
Um,
my god, bro. What, he falls like pick 80 in our draft, dude. That's crazy.
I know exactly. I mean, in I think our Georgetown league, I got him in maybe the 7th round, the 6th or 7th round,
Yeah,
which was an
it's the same
absolute
on
steal.
the turf lane.
Absolute steal.
Yeah, I was like overthinking it. I was like, should I just take him? Like, he's right there. Like, have people forgotten how good this man is? Like, what?
Exactly, exactly. People thought that he wasn't going to be good because of Baker, but Baker's really just been, I think, a really good addition for him. So, Buccaneers, first
Hmm.
of all, I mean, they have the inside track right now to win the division, but it's still going to be really close. They
Hmm.
have divisional games, I think, coming up against the Saints and Panthers. So, they really control their own destiny. I mean, what do you see from them here? I mean, it looks like I personally think they win the division. They get the 4 seed, and then they probably. I mean, they're looking like they're going to play either the Eagles or the Cowboys, depending on how these last 2 weeks shake out. I mean, I think this is a good team, but are they good enough? Do you think to win a playoff game?
I, especially with the way the NFC has been shaking out recently, with a lot of the top teams faltering, like the Eagles and the Cowboys, and the Bucks getting hot at the right time. I see no reason why they can't go on a run, honestly. And I want to go back to early season. The way people were talking about this Buccaneers offense, they were predicting like some hapless unit where Baker Mayfield would get benched by week 3. I think like people still have yet to shed those expectations that they had for this team going in, because people are overlooking them. People aren't really considering them a big threat. Like right now, it's just like, oh, Baker Mayfield, like he's a good story, like good for him. We love Baker, but it's like you're not gonna love this man in a couple weeks. Like if he dices up the Eagles, well, I love him. A lot of people love him actually, but once he becomes an actual serious threat, like I think he's at that point now. But once he actually shows it to people, I think narrative's gonna change, and I just think this team has been way overlooked. They're really putting it all together right now. The offense is clicking, like you said. Mike Evans just going crazy. They want to prove it. They want to prove that they're more than just Brady, because so much of that talk this offseason was that, oh, that team, Brady was the only thing holding them together. I'm sure that's true to an extent, but to go to Baker Mayfield and essentially have a better result, a better looking offense, I think it's pretty damning as to at least the quality of this Bucks team.
I agree. I mean, this Bucks team, they're now on a 4-game win streak. They're probably going to be favored in their last 2 games against the Saints, like I said, and the Panthers, so they could go into the playoffs. 6-game win streak. Baker's been playing lights out on this 4-game win streak. He's had a 9-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, playing really great football. And I think, like I said, the Eagles and Cowboys have been faltering to play either of those teams. They could sneak out with a win there. But on the other end of the football, first of all, the Buccaneers defense also playing great. They made life tough for Trevor Lawrence, who threw 2 early picks. He ended up getting benched slash sitting because he was injured anyways. Obviously he's going to be playing next week, but Jaguars, I mean, they look really, really rough. Trevor Lawrence, we thought he was going to keep ascending, take another step forward this year, but it's been a very, very massive step back.
That man is fraudulent.
I agree. I mean, I was saying this a few weeks ago. That his stats weren't
no, you were
great.
right.
He'd been playing
right.
easy teams.
You know what? I was arguing against you. I defended that man, and look at how he rewards me. What a fraud, dude.
He's betrayed you. He's betrayed you. And I mean, this team's on a 4-game losing streak. They got the Panthers and Titans next, so 2 easier games. But what was supposed to be their division has now become very, very close, and it's no longer a lock for them. So Jaguars team moving forward, I mean, they might sneak into playoffs, but it looks like if they get the 4 seed, they're going to have a tough matchup against probably the Browns. Is this a one and done team? And if so, where do you go moving forward? I mean, is Trevor Lawrence still your guy? I mean, I think he has to be, but what do you need from this team? What else are you looking for to make this team better? Because they really have everything I think you would need for a good football team.
Yeah, I haven't paid too much attention to the Jaguars, so my knowledge here is a little limited. But whatever games I do turn on, when I see Trevor Lawrence throwing that ball, the man just looks drunk. Like, balls are like, they're falling like 5 feet to like the right of a receiver. He's like throwing it right into the hands of defenders. He's rolling out and doing like nothing. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Like, this guy's supposed to be a stud. Like, this is the same quarterback that had his team at 8-3 a couple weeks ago. I mean, like, they've just massively regressed. And I'm not sure if it's even a regression or if it's just like a return to normal and they're just having some lucky wins or putting things together, because this team just looks terrible. Like, I don't know how to explain it, man. I don't know what's going on. I can't speak to this. But from, the untrained eye, like, damn, they're just bad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think last year, too, Trevor Lawrence was a little bit inconsistent. He had his marquee moments. He had his moments that made him look like a star quarterback, for example. That game against the Chargers in the wild card round when he came down from a huge deficit. But I think we're seeing the inconsistencies really show now, and they're really biting the Jaguars. I think this is probably if they do make playoffs, if they do win their division, I think it's a one and done team. And going into the offseason, I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do about it. You have a number 1 overall pick at quarterback, you have a star receiver, you have a pretty solid defense, I think. But they have some question marks, I think, going forward.
You honestly have good everything. I don't know why it's not coming together.
Exactly. I think at some point you're gonna have to start looking at quarterback play as that reason, because everything else has really looked solid for the Jaguars team. But let's look ahead. We'll look ahead first to Week 17, and then we can talk a little bit about awards, about the MVP race, because I'm sure that's definitely changed a lot last week. So we'll start off really 2 big games for next week. First off, Lions-Cowboys Saturday night. 2 teams that have played really well. They're near the top of the NFC. but they've also been dealt some very, very bad losses throughout the year,
Mhm.
which makes us question how good these teams actually are. So Lions 11-4, Cowboys 10-5, and it's in Dallas. What do you expect from this game? Dallas has played very, very well at home. Do you think that they continue that streak there?
Yeah, I don't want to get too down in the dumps about the Cowboys. I still think they're a good team, even if the coaching is a bit fraudulent. They could put together a good game, especially at home. I think the Lions are going to get punched in the mouth a little bit here. I hate to say it. I still think it'll be a close game, but I think that defense just they're kind of going to bow to the needs of the Cowboys. I feel like Dak and Tony Pollard and CD, they're going to come out angry. That offense is going to come out with the game plan, and they're going to want to get that win against a good quality opponent. After back-to-back losses on the road, and try to prove that they can win big games, they can beat good teams, and I think they're just going to be very motivated. I think it's the perfect storm against the Lions for this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cowboys are one of the best, or they are one of the best teams at home, and they play so much better at home than they do on the road. On the other hand, the Lions, I mean, they won last week. I don't know how convincing of a win it was against a Nick Mullins led team. Their offense looks fine, but yeah, like you said, this defense I think is cause for concern. Granted, they've picked off Nick Mullins 4 times, but they also
Hmm.
let him run or throw for 411 yards. They let
He's a true gunslinger. I love that
yeah,
guy.
gun the next Brett Favre. But um, yeah, Lions defense can be concerning at times. Just 2 weeks ago, they
Mhm.
also let the Bears beat them by 15 points in Chicago. So I'm gonna take the Cowboys here. I think it'll be a close game, but like you said, I think the Cowboys have a lot to play for here, and will
Mhm.
prove that. And I think they'll keep the NFC East in contention for them. Next big
Yeah.
game, two other teams we talked about just now: Dolphins, Ravens. Another really, really good game between two top AFC teams this time. Dolphins go to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Um, I mean, after what the Ravens defense just did to the Niners, do the Dolphins have a chance
Mhm.
here? I mean, I feel like people are probably going to be writing them off this game, especially after that huge game from the Ravens. But what I mean, obviously they're going to be underdogs, but what do you think the Dolphins need to do to win this game? Where can they, set themselves apart to make sure that the Ravens don't run them over?
I think it's just gonna come down to the type of game plan that Mike McDaniel's has against this Ravens defense. Um, can't turn over the ball. You can't give them the big plays. And I know that this is a Dolphins team that wants that high-powered offense and wants to stretch the field down. But I think the Ravens are going to be waiting for that type of stuff. They're going to be playing into it dangerously. And I think also he really has to scheme a way to stop getting pressure to Tua. Because with the way this offensive line is right now and the way the Ravens are playing, this could be a very messy game if they can't stop those pass rushers. Um, I mean, honestly, it's a very Herculean effort, especially on the road. I don't see it from Tua. I don't think Tua is that type of quarterback where if things are going bad around him, that he can, elevate the team and take you to a win on the road against a team like the Ravens. For that reason, I think the Ravens just going to get this done. You know, I'm sorry, Dolphins fans, whoever
No,
you're
that's fair.
listening.
I think the Ravens come out on top too. I just think the Dolphins. I mean, last week was really encouraging for me. First of all, the way they performed.
Mhm.
I don't know. I keep hearing all of this about like Arjun's arg. Okay, this is such a dumb argument that the Dolphins like they don't play physical football. They play with too much finesse. They're all built around speed and nothing else. Stupid argument in my opinion. First of all, I mean
Mhm.
this is a Dolphins team again. Top 10 rush defense, top 10 rush offense. They know how to win on the line. I think that's the first thing. And what's
Mhm.
more is that not they're smart with the way they run the football. I mean, they like getting to the outside. They like using their speed and A chain, Moster, which when you have it, why
Mhm.
not use it? Um, so I think that's the first key for them. Run the ball well and do it in ways that keep the Ravens on their heels. After that, hopefully you can build off of that and use your passing attack as well. They're
Mhm.
without Jalen Waddle probably this week, which I think is a very um,
It's a big blow.
yeah, that's a big loss, a very very big loss.
Mhm.
And I think that's not going to make things easier for them. I think they'll keep it close, but the Ravens have just been playing. too well. I really do want to see this Dolphins defense against this Ravens offense. I want to see the Dolphins defense put up some sort of fight, maybe get a few turnovers, which will be encouraging, I think, going into the Bills game. But I think with the lack of Jalen Waddle and with the way this Ravens team is playing, I agree it's probably the Ravens for the win. And going into our next conversation, this could be a game for Lamar Jackson to really cement himself as the MVP. I mean, right now,
Mhm.
after that game against the Niners, he vaulted into first place in the odds. He's, I mean, statistically, doesn't have the best stats we've seen out of a quarterback who's won MVP before. But I mean, if you can
Mhm.
get two marquee wins back to back in December, it's MVP level. It's MVP play. Um, so, what are your thoughts on the MVP race? I'm happy Lamar's in contention. I'm happy Lamar is number one right now, but I can't say he's the most deserving when you take into the season as a whole. So I'll let you go first. I know you have your thoughts. I know you're going to have some propaganda to spread before I.
Propaganda?
Yeah, oh,
No,
it's
no,
propaganda.
surely
It's
not.
propaganda.
Surely not.
Before I go.
Yeah. Listen, I think the issue with Lamar's MVP is that the team is just too dominant. If we give it to Lamar in this year with the stats that he has, stats are important. You know, stats are the decider in pretty much every other award race. But when we want to just give it to the best quarterback on the best team, or sorry, the quarterback on the best team that plays at a good level, I feel like what's the point? You know, like how are we actually deciding this? And I
Okay,
think that
wait,
the
hold on.
if you look,
Really quick timeout because that was the argument that I was hearing all of Brock Purdy when I was saying Brock Purdy is too good of a team. Brock Purdy isn't being that great. I was hit with no. Brock Purdy's doing so well. I mean, you can't fault him for the weapons he has. Just saying. He has better stats than Lamar, but he's not. I mean, he's nowhere near the player that a lot of these quarterbacks are.
you know, that's fair. I think the difference with the Niners is that they just had that huge stretch of games where Brock Purdy was absolutely shredding apart defenses,
That's
doing it
fair.
with his arm, you know, just sitting back, racking up those multiple passing touchdown games. It just looked too impressive to deny, especially on such a dominant 49ers team. And the issue with Lamar isn't anything about his own play or anything on his own side. He hasn't been bad. He's been amazing. He's probably been the best quarterback, or at least top three quarterback in the league this year. The issue is, if you look at the MVP, the most valuable player to a team, I feel like there are just other more valuable players out there to their team. And that's just by nature of the team that the Ravens are. You know, that defense has won them multiple games. Like, if you look at that 49ers game, like, what's the reason they won that game? Like, if we ask ourselves. Was it it was Lamar Jackson was a part of it, but it's more so the four turnovers or whatever it was that the Ravens defense caused
Mhm.
to a 49ers elite offense on the road. So I think the Ravens are just an insanely dominant team, and when you look at Lamar Jackson's individual stats as well, it's kind of hard to give him the MVP this year. Here comes my take. I think it should be, and I think it's going to be clear, especially 2 weeks from now, when the Bills are the number two seed, that it should be Josh Allen, because you look at the numbers this man has put up. Another 40 touchdown season. He has so many yards. He is the offense. He's second, I think, in the league in EPA. So it's not even the argument. You can't even say the argument that turnovers are hurting his argument for MVP, because by efficiency metrics he is up there. He is like probably the best quarterback in the league this year. PFF has them graded as the number one quarterback in the league. And when you look individually at each game, so many games. I think the Cowboys game is really the only one where we didn't ask him to shoulder the burden of the entire team and just carry the game, you know, win it on the offense. And he's handed, again, the defense multiple game-winning drives that they just squandered away, that I think if they haven't squandered those away, his case would be much stronger right now. So I think if the Ravens beat the Dolphins in the fashion they tend to do, then the Ravens have the one seed and they're resting for next week. Then Josh Allen continues to go nuclear, beats the Dolphins on the road. Then I think the argument's going to be very good for Josh Allen in this year, especially with the down year for quarterbacks. He's still putting up those huge numbers. And, you know, I love Christian McCaffrey. I think it's just so difficult to give the award to a running back, especially when you look at the last one, Adrian Peterson, who had much better who's had much better stats than him this year.
Okay, I mean, I get the Josh Allen argument. I'm not completely opposed to it. Um, he's had a good year. I mean, okay. Here's my issue with the MVP race: is I feel like it oftentimes becomes far too dependent. It's far too. It's or what's the word? I mean, there's too much recency bias, I think, with it. I mean, if you take into account the way Josh
I
was
agree.
playing at the beginning of the year, quite frankly, I mean, if you said that Josh deserved MVP after, say after that New England loss, granted it wasn't his fault, but after a loss like that, I mean, you would have called him crazy. I mean, that shouldn't have happened.
Hmm.
And granted, he's had some good wins after, and he's been a reason for a lot of those wins. But I mean, when you're not going to have the best record in your division, or if he doesn't win the division, I'm sorry, if you're not going to have the best record in your conference, maybe not even the best record in your division, and again in a down year for quarterbacks, does he really deserve it? I mean, he's had he has what about almost 3,800 yards this year, so he'll probably break like 4,300 ish depending on his next few games.
43, 44, yeah.
Yeah, around that area. 15 picks. 15 picks is a lot. It's the most he's thrown in his career, or he's on pace to try to throw for the most thrown in his career. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, he's having a good year, and he's obviously the main reason that this Bills team is winning. But just like Lamar, I don't know if you can warrant giving it to him because of how, or Lamar. I guess the argument is different in terms of the rest of his team has been dominant. But if you're looking at the stats again, I mean, I don't know if you can warrant it considering Lamar and I mean, Lamar's accounted for I think about 26 or 27 touchdowns I think on the year.
Hmm.
When you add the
I think
passing
it's
and
24.
rushing,
24. He has
24.
five rushing touchdowns.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Granted,
No, the
okay,
argument
actually,
is 24 to 40. It's kind of compelling.
yeah, 40 is actually a lot. I
It's
digress
pretty
on that
crazy.
point. Um, no, it is a lot, and I think quite honestly, if I were to choose between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, I would choose Josh Allen at this point. But the reason I point out
Mhm.
those statistical deficiencies is because I still think it's Christian McCaffrey. I mean,
Okay.
again, in the last game that you saw that they played against the Ravens, McCaffrey was the only offensive player getting anything going. Despite the offense getting nearly nothing done, he still puts up over 130 yards of scrimmage and a
Mhm.
touchdown. He's already, I think, or I don't know if he already has, but
And
he'll surpass 2,000 yards of scrimmage. Over probably he'll get over 25
yeah,
touchdowns. Um, I don't know. I mean, he's been playing lights out and he's been
no,
consistent all year.
I give you Rohan. I give you that point. McCaffrey is incredible. I would not be sad at all to see the word go to him or Lamar Jackson. I think the issue though with giving it to him, at least on my end, is like you said in that Ravens game, he was the only thing going, right? Only player producing, right? He still looked elite. But what did it amount to? They still lost by multiple scores. He couldn't really make a huge impact on the game. And I feel like that's the issue with giving it to a running back in today's NFL. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's why the Offensive Player of the Year award exists, to recognize talent like that. Or for going off of MVP, I just think it's hard to give it to McCaffrey.
That's fair, but I mean, we've also seen a lot of games where Josh Allen. I mean, obviously he has the ball more than McCaffrey does, but we've seen a lot of games
Mm-hmm.
where Josh Allen, hasn't been able to get it done. Or okay, sorry, I shouldn't say Josh hasn't been able to get it done, but rather people around Josh Allen have faltered. His defense has faltered, and so he's lost games. I mean, we've seen it countless times. We
Mm-hmm.
saw it, like for example, in the New England game. We saw it in the Denver Broncos game, where I mean, he's doing everything he can, but it's still not enough to win games. And at some point, I mean, football's a team sport, and
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have everyone playing well to win a football game. And McCaffrey, I mean, I mean, when you look at the sheer statistical dominance he's having, um,
Mm-hmm.
I just find it very tough to believe that he doesn't deserve MVP this year with the way he's been playing. And I don't know.
That's fair.
I think it'll come down to the wire. Another name
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't rule out yet is Tua
Yeah,
Tagovailoa. He
I
leads
actually
the
wanted to make that point. If Tua goes off and proves people like me wrong that he can't get a game like that done, then the MVP conversation looks very different. Especially if it's if it's to win that one seed and to go on to beat Buffalo as well.
yeah. I mean, he's playing two of the top MVP contenders in the next 2 weeks. If there's
Hmm.
any time for him to make his push, it's
No, he
right
can
now. I mean, you saw Lamar jump
he can put
Purdy
on a
in the
show.
yeah. If you saw Lamar jump Purdy in the odds after he beat him, I think if Tua can do something similar, if you beat Lamar and Josh in back-to-back weeks and you play half decent,
Hmm.
it's tough to say that Tua wouldn't deserve it. He leads the league in
Well,
passing right
Dak
now.
Prescott as well.
Dak too, but I mean Dak's fallen a bit. I mean
Well,
Dak.
I'm saying beating Dak, then Lamar, then Josh Allen.
Oh
I
right,
feel
yeah,
like
he just beat Dak. Yeah, you're right,
yeah.
you're right. Exactly. I mean that would be an insane storyline if Tua can
No,
get that done.
I think he would deserve that if he gets that done.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I
The
agree.
thing is,
Because
I
like
just don't think it's likely. That's the issue.
yeah, I don't think he gets both of those wins. Maybe he gets one. Getting two, I think, is a little bit tough. Um,
Yeah.
but that would be a great storyline.
My two teams to make the Super Bowl, Rohan. I'll give you one. Actually, I won't even say it. You know what it is on the AFC side, and on the NFC side, give me the Los Angeles Rams. I think I think they do. This team, hey, look at this team recently. They've been putting it together. I mean, go back a couple weeks ago. Look what they were doing in Baltimore. We were talking so much about the Ravens this show, this episode about how great they look. They went toe to toe with them and lost to them in OT. I forget what it was off of, but they definitely had a shot to win that game. I think it was 36 to 30 the game finished.
Yeah,
This
they
Rams
lost
team
in
is
a punt
very
return
good.
touchdown.
A punt return, exactly. Yeah, I remember it being something like that. This Rams team is very good, and I think at a time when the NFC is kind of struggling a bit, 49ers just got demolished. Cowboys, Eagles, we don't really have faith in them. Lions, can they beat that big team? Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, they've been there before. That team's putting it together. I think they get it done. I'm putting my money on them.
That's a fair point. They know how to get it done. But okay, so who would you pick then to win it all?
Give me the Buffalo Bills, man. This is the year. If there's ever a year we win it, it's some bullshit like this where we go 6-6 and then just put it together. That's the type of team we are.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I like the Rams storyline as well. The only slight issue I have with them is their defense hasn't been the best. Their secondary hasn't been the best lately. But
Hmm.
I do like that pick. I think they're a sleeper. For me, I'm gonna have to be a little bit stuck, unfortunately, from the NFC. Give me the Niners. I mean, they've beaten every contender in the NFC. They've beaten the Rams. They've beaten the Eagles. They've beaten the Cowboys, and it hasn't been particularly close. I think they're still the class of the NFC. In the AFC, I thought it was a lot more wide open going into last week, but after that Ravens performance, it's really tough to not see them going very, very far. Give me the Ravens, give me Lamar, and give me Lamar to win it all and win Super Bowl MVP.
Okay.
Shri posed a question 2 weeks ago to me and Arjun. He asked if Lamar to retire after the season, do you think he's Hall of Fame caliber? And it's really early to say that about someone who's 26 years old, but I think if Lamar has a season, I think he'll have, if he finishes it out with a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP, and maybe even a regular season MVP, I think he should cement himself as, like you said, a top five, top three quarterback, and one of the best quarterbacks of this generation. But we'll see. I look forward to hopefully seeing Lamar
Interesting.
tear it up. But that's all we have this week. Thank you guys for watching. Um, I don't know how Arjun YouTube does these outros. I'm not used to them. But I'm Rohan
Yeah.
Patel.
I'm Camille. I'm Danny.
Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next week on the turf.
Thank you.